So I got this idea where I wanted to see if I could challenge myself to clear Location 8 Stage 2 with all the factions using all 5 members, or filling it up to 5 members, and not using any consumables. Why do that, you might ask? Well, to me, this stage is sort of like the litmus test of how good a faction is. It's one of, if not the hardest levels in story mode. So if a faction can utilize its perks and roster to muster through this stage, then for me at least, it passes the test of being a worthwhile faction. Sort of. Moreover though, this challenge has helped me reflect on past rankings and comments more clearly because I hadn't put all factions up to the same level of pressure until now. So I'll go through each fight, which is sped up to save time, and give a bit of commentary on how I thought things went. If there's a particular faction you're interested in, of course, you can just skip ahead to that. So enough rambling from me, let's get started. Marines went about as well as I'd expect. They do everything pretty well, and I honestly think they work better without the pilot than with, but I don't have them yet to be honest, so that's just speculation. Anyhow, the only time I feel Marines get overrun is when Rodriguez is too weak to handle what's in front of him. Everyone else is great in this team. I suspect some people might overlook the Marines because on paper, none of their faction bonuses are clearly visible on the field. There's no medkit drop or putting units into a rage state, but on a level like this, you can more clearly see how good it is to be able to max out agility as well as minimize pauses between attacks. This also allows you to reduce prep time on units since you know their agility is taken care of through perks instead of items. I think it's good to sort of look at this as the inverse of courage gain or cost reduction. Instead of getting courage, your cooldown times for sending units out is minimized without need to rely on RNG factors, which is a big bonus for me. Police was easy as expected. The agent's final ability of being a 2-for-1 towards faction perks and faction bonuses on the field is amazing, so I took advantage of that by having 2 support units as well, support items. I don't use the Mountie very often, so I wanted to throw him in there too, but I was pretty tired when I did this, so I was too slow to have him come out with his shields on in time. I guess the only lingering drawback to the police is their lack of a good machine gunner, or any machine gunner really. I don't really count the collector in that bunch, he sucks. But the turret covers the role well enough, and best of all, insectoids don't leap towards the turret, so it worked out well in the end. Not gonna lie, I was really surprised by how well the jailers did on this level. It only took me 2 or 3 tries to get 100% completion, and I think part of their success is their awesome 2 and 5 man perk. A 30% cooldown reduction is amazing, and the buff the Gunslinger got 2 patches ago really shows. He's the cheapest range unit now by far, and his cost can go as low as a Redneck. His accuracy increase is also nice, and for once I noticed his final ability of a double mag at play. The only problem is that the Gunslinger tends to group up and get cleaved down all at once, which happens later with a different faction. Willie is a bit strange to me. I like him, but he's just so expensive. But it's one of the only characters where I prioritize a different stat over cost reduction though, because I sort of feel you have to. In his case, I take range damage first, then cost reduction. He needs to be hitting fairly hard, otherwise he's just a waste. He is a good magnet for insectoids though, since he technically is ranged, so they jump to him instead of someone else more vulnerable. Guard I'm not a big fan of, and he's not so great on this level because most enemies here are immune to knockbacks. I do feel bad for him though, and others like the Firefighter, because they're original characters, but they still only have their 1 faction skin available, so hopefully in the future that'll get changed. Mechanics took longer than it usually does for me, but I didn't really worry too much. This level's a breeze for them, and I didn't really rush anything, so I guess I was just kind of being lazy. Again, I do like Wrench's addition to the team. He's great to have here. If for nothing else, he goes down instead of Polina, who you really want to stay up in order to take down the cranked zombies. IF was by and far the most difficult faction to do this challenge, and at one point I nearly gave up trying. I think I was only able to do the stage because of the turret, which is testament to just how good it is. I didn't put much thought into it before, but holy shit, they have the absolute worst faction bonuses in the game. All of them are lackluster though, maybe the 2-man a little less so. The medkit drop never drops on your characters, so it's a waste, and the damage it deals from the 5-man perk is absolutely paltry. It's basically a tickle at this stage of the game. Also, the roster for IF just blows in every way imaginable. Medic costs too much courage, and she never throws her medkits where they need to go. The problem is that the person she targets for the medkit always has it so they're at the very tail end of its radius, and once they move an inch anywhere, they're no longer getting healed. Medic is just a bad character really. It's too costly, too low health, and the AI sucks on it. Ranger and Pepper are good, but Pepper's not a good fit for this level because of the early game pressure you face. Light Soldier doesn't have any kind of melee reduction or shields, and he gets cleaved down pretty quickly, and the Grenadier is just a waste to me. I don't talk much about Grenadier because I find him to be pretty bad outside of PvP. His grenades don't do enough damage. Aside from that, he's just a crappier version of the Light Soldier. At this point, I feel I gave IF way too much credit in my ranking video, and I'd probably rank them close to last at this point. I hope their perks get a rework, which I think they desperately need, because yeah, it sucks as it stands right now. Builders went exactly as I expected, RNG dependent. It took me a few tries, but they did alright in the end. Something that bothers me about the 3-man perk for them, and for TMF as well, is how if the person who comes out isn't on your roster, they're at level 0 with no items as opposed to, you know, whatever level and build that character actually is in your game. It just makes it a total waste, and in the case of this faction, it sort of forces you to have an Abby and Juggernaut on your team because you don't want level 0s coming out for them. I also find it irritating that if Pepper comes out, she doesn't do her buff since she's also at level 0, which makes her pretty useless. Anyhow, I'd still say these guys are C tier, though I do like them more in PvP these days. I'll probably do another tier list video for factions after the next big update. TMF was good, but again, it's a bit of RNG work at play. I did get Rogue to 0 cost, which was nice. I think what this level really highlights though is how cost is only half the battle. Even if your cost is down to 5 or 0 or whatever, you still have to contend with each character's prep time, and then you need to weigh that in against with their agility. So for a character like Rogue, that's a big deal since he has the lowest base agility in the game. For Soldier, he's just kind of fat and slow, and you gotta choose between having more than one show up in a level or have him actually move laterally and engage in enemies not directly in front of him. Anyhow, it's a fun faction, but yeah, it needs to come together a bit better. College team was the biggest surprise for me. This was my first attempt with them, and they did pretty decent. Cheerleader is great as expected, but now that the bully's been buffed, he does well too, and I feel his cost reduction also makes him less competitive with the cheerleader as he helps in the early game more so. Dale also brings a lot of power to the team when he's set up right. The military item set bonus suits him well, I think. His health pool is low, so you don't want to chance him with gentleman or surgery items in my opinion. Coaches are nice, they have a ton of charisma, so that helps get Sonya's damage up a bit higher, but honestly, I wouldn't go past 2 of them on the field at any point in time. Lastly, the builders, 1986, 1989, his football skin, he did alright in this level. I don't put much stock in him, and I still wouldn't put much stock in him, but for this stage, this playthrough, he was quite good. You know what I didn't realize about the Northerners? It was just how exclusive this faction is. Honestly, 9 members and 6 of them are locked behind events. So if you don't have at least 2 of them from previous events, then don't bother trying to fill the team to full capacity. I barely had enough, not having Lester, the Thanksgiving Carol, Medic, what's her name? She looks like, not Daphne, who's the other one? Velma looking medic, or Worthless. I think he's worthy, but I call him Worthless. I do think Lester and Carol could be good for this faction, so I hope to get them this Halloween and Thanksgiving respectively. Anyhow, they were a little bit tough given how little choice I had and who I could use. This roster is not the best, and the only real winner was Sonya, and actually Turbo did alright too. Andrea, I strongly feels needs to be reworked again so she's able to come out right away like the agent so she can use her stealth perk more effectively. On this level though, it doesn't make much of a difference since the first pair of insectoids come out pretty quickly, hence why I didn't start with her. Turbo did much better than I thought, and I hadn't even looked at what items she had equipped prior to this. I usually only use her for the corn farm. Her knockback, when she pulls it off, is really nice on this level. Alright, not as bad as IF, but wow, military was hard to do. They do not deal with early game pressure very well. Juggernaut is their main line of defense, and he just isn't enough. Polina gets demolished by insectoids the moment she leaves the doors of the bus, and everyone else just sucks pretty much. Spec Ops is good, but it takes too long for him to deploy. The Grenadier's grenade sucks, and I know I've said that already, but I feel like I just need to say it again here. Glenn just dies too quick, and when he gets back up, he just gets knocked down right away. Really, outside of PvP, I don't think military is as good as I once thought. This was painful and difficult to do, and I don't know. I'm sure someone out there has it figured out better than I do, but I tried several compositions and I found all of them difficult. This was not easy or fun. For here, C tier ranking at best for sure, but these are still the top guys for PvP. That nerf didn't really do anything to them. Patriots was also difficult, and I'd say nearly on par with military. Their one saving grace is how powerful Barbecue is, but if he's not in the middle of firing when the insectoids jump him, he's done for. So it's a gamble with him, but he's necessary to push forward because of the damage that he brings. Also, he's not at all fireproof. I didn't realize that before. So given that he only ever does fire damage, shouldn't he at least have 50% fire resistance? On the plus side, I have to say that Rebel, which is Gunslinger's either skin, was really good here again. And he was really great to have in the early game. But he's just not enough, and he tends to die all at once because they clump together so closely. Again, Juggernaut sucks outside of PvP. He has a higher health pool and the extra shield, but he has no melee resistance, only range resistance, so he dies pretty quickly. And since he blows up, he damages other melee characters, which is annoying. If by chance you have Nancy on your team, she can't resurrect him, since, you know, he loses his head quite literally. Charlotte is good, but less so than Polina, because she costs more and her range is shorter. I do like her reworked final ability though, with the stacking damage. It's really nice. All in all, not as good as I was hoping for, but better than they were previously. So if I rank these guys again, I'd probably put them in low C or high D tier. I'm not sure. They do shine on other levels though, like the one a few levels after this one with all the twin zombies. Psychos were good, exactly as I said in my tier ranking video. Slow to start, but once you get them rolling with some rage, they start to hit pretty well. It was a bit of a struggle on this level though, since there's a lot of early game pressure. Red Hood looks cool, but I wish his wave attack happened more often. I stacked him with Valor gear, but it wasn't enough really. The fun thing about Psychos is that you can go wild with the Buzz's minigun since they generate rage so quickly once there's a few of them out there. Just be sure not to click on any of the red barrels until after the minigun has finished firing. Also, the turret is really helpful here to cover for their lack of range support. Rednecks stomp here pretty much, well, they pretty much stomp everywhere, but especially here. This was the one faction where it felt like the tables were turned, and I was the one putting the pressure on the enemy right from the start. The best thing is that you could pretty much pick anything you want for your 6th slot. You know, like a fart in the wind would be okay because the rest of them are going to carry you to victory anyways. By and far the easiest faction to do this level with. Emergency worked out better than I thought, though in hindsight I think Nancy would have been a better pick than the medic. I don't know why I went with her. I think I was pretty tired when I did this. Anyhow, SWAT's Firestarter skin does wonders for this faction, and I think I undersold him. If you're into this faction, then he's a must-have because he brings a lot of much-needed damage to the table here. On a side note, one of the cool things I discovered about the 3-man bonus for the emergencies faction is that it stacks. So if by chance you have someone who's in range of the 2 of a med pack and another one comes on top of him or her, then they get 100% extra damage bonus as opposed to just a 50%. So, you know, that's nice on the rare occasion that it happens. But if you're looking to pull it off, I think it'd be easy to pull this off on a supply run, so bear that in mind. Anyhow, it did take me quite a few tries with this faction, and I had to fiddle it around to get a good comp, but yeah, it worked out okay. I do think I got a little bit lucky on this run though. Scientists went exactly as you'd think. They're difficult to start, but easy in the last third or so of the game of the playthrough. Once you're wiping things out through the 5-man perk, it's a cakewalk. I gotta say, Dr. Sanchez is the real MVP here, since he's quick to come out and he drops a drone when he dies. And if you got, given if you have 2 other unique units on the field at the time, which isn't too hard with these guys. One crappy thing is that I didn't go with the drone because I felt the turret would have been better. In hindsight though, the drone's ability to attract all nearby zombies might have given this team some much needed breathing room, so maybe it's worth checking out. Dr. Miller's landmine does not one-shot the insectoids, which blows. Therefore, I didn't choose him, because once he deploys that landmine, he's basically cannon fodder. The prisoners were easy to do this level with. Their 3-man perk that gives them the first hit evasion is perfect to deal with those lightning fast suicide zombies, which hit pretty hard actually. The double support items that you can use since they're lacking a 5th member is also pretty helpful. But speaking of a 5th member, I sort of played through this and giving it some thought, and I thought maybe Andrea would make a good 5th member since the team doesn't have a sniper, and she's close enough range that she benefits from Maria's aura buff. Also to that, agents would also be a great addition too, I think. And I think it'd be really fun if they named them something like Red and Andy to pay homage to Shawshank Redemption. Just a random thought there. But yeah, all in all, prisoners, very easy as expected. Just a random side note, but you might want to start saving red tickets for the Halloween event. I'd say you want around 30 or so for this event, and I know it seems far and away right now, but if you're low on tickets like me and you want the characters that come with the event, then now's the time. I should mention that this event is the only way to get enough psychos for a full roster too. Last year they were on a real random chance for each playthrough, and it was hard to get everyone, which I wasn't able to. So yeah, just my advice on that. That's about it. Thanks again for watching this long, and I'll see you in the next one.